All right, we should be all set, ready to go here live. It is Monday night here on Dodgers Daily, Dodgers Dogs, as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. My name is Austin Brubaker. I'm excited to be here. Always excited to be joined by the Dodgers Daily fans, the Dodgers Daily audience. You guys are amazing. This is Monday Night Baseball here as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. I'm excited to be a part of this and excited to talk a lot about the exciting news of Dodgers baseball. A lot going on right now. Spring training is continuing to go on. The opening day starting pitcher has been announced for the Dodgers. Tyler Glasnow is taking the mound in 9 days in Korea. It's going to be exciting. Then in Game 2, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to make his MLB debut. A lot to be excited about. Dodgers versus Padres coming up. And we are here live, Dodgers Daily. Going to be talking a lot about Dodgers baseball. Going to be talking about a whole variety of different aspects, including opening day starters. What does that mean? There also has been some roster cuts. We'll be going through some of those, what those individual players have to do to rejoin the Dodgers to get back onto this roster and some opportunities. We'll be looking at this roster as a whole, how this bullpen looks, because there has been some injuries. Bruce Gratterall, at least for the Korea series, doesn't appear to be ready. We'll be talking about that. How Justin Wilson can find a way onto this roster. We'll also be talking about Spring Breakout. What is that? Who is actually on the roster? It's actually a really cool initiative, especially for us here on Dodgers Daily, who we get so excited about these prospects coming up. We'll be talking a little bit about the action today, as well as some new faces got onto the field. You got to see Yainer Fernandez, Kendall George got in there, as well as Ben Harris continued to have another impressive outing, and Michael Hobbs got in there as well. We'll be talking a lot about Dodgers baseball today. Most importantly, we want to talk what you guys want to talk about in the comment section. Be sure to leave whatever comments, whatever topics you guys want to talk about. On Saturday's show, Casey and I went live, and Coach and Casey went live last night, and there's been a lot of talk about Gavin Lux. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time discussing that situation. I think everybody is aware of what is going on. I hope Gavin Lux is able to figure this out. He clearly is in his own head, I believe, just with the way things are playing. This is not going to be a trash Gavin Lux show. So if you're here for that, this show probably will not be for you, because there is still exciting things to talk about with this Dodgers team. Getting excited as we gear up to 9 days away from opening day. Dodgers versus Padres in Korea. Tyler Glasnow is going to be taking the mound. Dodgers fans have had a chance to see Tyler Glasnow pitch a couple of games during the course of spring training, and he has looked electric during his time with the Dodgers. He has been an incredible pitcher who has swinging miss type stuff that the Dodgers envy. If you go up and down this Dodgers system, the way or the types of arms they seem to target, it is a very clear pattern that they look for those guys that have the good high swing and miss stuff, which is why you see guys like a Ben Harris, Michael Hobbs, Juan Murillo come up in spring training and be able to strike out a lot of guys. It's because they target guys like that, guys like Carlos De Los Santos, who has electric stuff, a lot of guys in the system. Tyler Glasnow has that dominant electric stuff, and the Dodgers are showing that they trust him to be the ace of this staff. He is the opening day starter. He's going to be ready to go, and over the past couple of seasons, he has been remarkably consistent with his analytical numbers. And what I want to do is look specifically at his numbers in SIERA. Now, if you're not familiar with what SIERA is another ERA estimate. So most baseball fans are familiar with earned runs average. It is the evaluation of the results of a pitcher. It's the way if a pitcher has a 3.00 ERA, is one of the better pitchers in baseball. SIERA takes the ERA onto that scale. However, it takes into account specific factors like strikeouts, like walks. It also takes into count other variables like ground balls, home runs to fly ball percentage. It's a little bit more complicated formula, but it is seen as even a better predictor than factors like FIP and XFIP. And what I want to go through is his SIERA over the course of the past 5 regular seasons, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23, because it shows a remarkable consistency that I believe the Dodgers can rely upon in the year 2024 as we gear up to opening day. SIERA in 2019 for Tyler Glasnow, 3.18, I should say. 2020, 3.04. 2021, 2.92. 2022, 2.36. And last year, 3.08. Remarkably consistent, all below 320. It is phenomenal what he's able to do. He's consistently, last year he was in the 25th percentile or 95th plus percentile in strikeout percentage. He is going to be a great starter for this Dodgers team, and he's going to lead this club as they go into the course of the regular season. And then you turn the ball over to Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the star signing of the pitching class the Dodgers brought in. $325 million to bring over this great starting pitcher. The first outing was electric, and you saw the dominant stuff that Yoshinobu Yamamoto had. The splitter was absolutely nasty. Then you got to the second start, a little bit of a mixed bag, but if you look at the actual hits that were given up with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, most of them were weakly hit or maybe a little bit of bad luck, maybe a little bit of poor defense on display. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I still believe, is going to be a dominant factor into this Dodgers rotation. And as he gets more and more acclimated to the big league level, I expect nothing but the best for Yoshinobu Yamamoto as he continues to go up. Game 1, Tyler Glasnow, Yu Darvish. Game 2, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and it's going to be Joe Musgrove. Dodgers, Padres. It's going to happen Pacific time, 3 a.m. So what I want to know in the comment section is, are you going to be tuning in to the Dodgers versus Padres opening day at 3 a.m.? In which case, are you going to be going to bed early and trying to wake up super early? Or are you going to be trying to stay up all night to watch it? Or are you going to watch it on a little bit of delay? I'm curious to see what you guys are planning on doing. For me, it's a little bit easier because I'm here on the East Coast. It'll happen a little bit at 6 o'clock in the morning for me, which is still early, but a little bit more reasonable for you guys. So I'm excited to talk more about Dodgers baseball today. We're going to be going a little bit over into these aspects. We'll be talking some prospects. We'll be talking about some of the roster cuts that were made and what this means for the roster going forward, how we think this roster is going to be constructed going forward as we enter into the new baseball season of Dodgers baseball. It is so exciting that we are just 9 days away until opening day. So really exciting times here on Dodgers baseball. So we're going to go ahead and get into some of the comments. We have some people joining us right now. Joe Rampley, thank you very much for joining Dodgers Daily here on the Dodgers Daily Network. Go Dodgers, still looking really good. And I think that is absolutely true. I know the result today wasn't what the Dodgers had wanted. The Dodgers lost today to the Guardians. However, the process, the overall feel of the team, I think is still looking good. There's several aspects that you might be a little bit concerned about. Obviously, the Gavin Lux situation, we talked about that on Saturday's show. Casey and Coach addressed that a little bit last night, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. There's been some injuries that have happened in the bullpen. The Dodgers got some good news as far as Blake Trinan. It looks like he might be able to come back at some point. Looks like they avoided the worst case scenario for him. Brusdar Graterol will be missing a little bit of time, which is a big loss for the Dodgers. I know the background analytics, if you look at a Brusdar Graterol, if you just look at his FIP and XFIP and you look at his extension numbers, they might not be as solid as what his ERA, which was 1.20 last year, might have indicated. However, I still really like a Brusdar Graterol, and I still think he's an interesting case analytically wise because he provides a little bit of a different aspect, because he relies so heavily on the ground balls, because he relies a lot on more of that weak contact. you're not going to get as many strikeouts as you would, meaning that FIP number is not going to be as elite because FIP takes into account strikeouts, walks, and home runs allowed. Doesn't take into account the ground balls that are given up. And I think Brusdar Graterol is still a really good pitcher, somebody that the Dodgers, for however long he's going to be out, whether it's just for the 2 games in spring train, in the first 2 games in Korea, or whether that is for the course of the regular season, a little bit more of an extended time, he's going to be a missed piece in this bullpen. But there are guys in this system, there are guys in this organization that can and will step up for this Dodgers team. I have full expectation of that. So let's go ahead and dive into it a little bit. The Dodgers roster heading into the opening week, where it stands, and what we could see potentially happen leading into Korea, because there's been some interesting news that has come out as far as the Dodgers roster. It sounds like Gavin Stone and Michael Grove both will be making the trip over to Korea. So you could see both of those guys potentially get into games over there, potentially be on the roster when the Dodgers are over in Korea. 2 guys that are fighting for that 5th roster spot. Emmett Sheehan is going to miss at least a little bit of time for the Dodgers. So Michael Grove and Gavin Stone are 2 of the guys competing, fighting for that 5th roster spot, as well as Ryan Yarbrough, as well as a Kyle Hurt. Both of those guys are at least going to make the trip over to Korea. So let's take a look at this roster. Position player wise, it seems to be set. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things going on with the Gavin Lux situation. All I'll say is if Gavin Lux doesn't make the trip over there, or if he's not on the Major League roster, it would very, very likely go to a Miguel Vargas instead of a Gavin Lux. And the reason has to do with 40-man roster space and the expected addition of Daniel Hudson and possible addition of Justin Wilson. Of the guys that are currently not projected to make the Dodgers roster position player-wise, you have Diego Cartaya, who still needs some time at the minor league level, still working his way back. You have Hunter Fiducia. Now, here's why Hunter Fiducia I don't believe would make sense as a replacement for Gavin Lux on this roster. You can't have 3 exclusive catchers on your roster when your designated hitter position isn't open, and when you don't have first base open, and when your catchers don't have any sort of flexibility to move other positions. If you had a player like a Yainer Fernandez who got in the game today, got a double, really excited about him. He's a really good, talented prospect, one of the best personalities in the system. He can play some second base. And he made a huge play in the Midwest League Championship against the Colonels, a great diving play that we might be able to show a little bit later in the evening. He provides a lot of flexibility because he can play second base. Hunter Fiducia is an exclusive catcher. Austin Barnes is an exclusive catcher. Will Smith right now just exclusively plays the catcher position. That doesn't provide you with enough flexibility since you don't have the designated hitter position. And I know Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez are on this roster. There just isn't a path for Hunter Fiducia that doesn't run through Austin Barnes right now. So he's one of the other guys. And then the main guy that I think people would love to see on this opening day roster, Andy Pages. I'd love to see him on the big league roster as well. I don't want to see Andy Pages sit on the bench and play 2 games a week. I don't think that is great for his development. I also think Andy Pages could use some time, at least a little bit more than just 1 game in Oklahoma City, just getting his feet wet. So with a combination of those decisions, that's why I don't think it's going to be Andy Pages. And then the other guy that could take the place, which you could make an argument and make a very decent argument, is Andre Lipsius. We talked about him on the show last week when he was added to the Dodgers. The Dodgers made a trade with the Detroit Tigers to get Andre Lipsius onto this club. And he's a good, talented infielder. He can play some third base, can play a little bit of second base, a little bit more of a corner infielder with a little bit of experience at second base. He's got good bat-to-ball skills. He's got good plate discipline, walks a bunch, doesn't strike out a whole lot. And I think he would be a worthy addition potentially to this Dodgers team. However, with the moves that the Dodgers made yesterday, the Dodgers decide to option Andre Lipsius to the minor league level. Now, does that mean that the Dodgers couldn't change their mind and bring him back up to the big league level? Perhaps not. But it seems like the Dodgers have already made their decision with Andre Lipsius, meaning that the only other position player that is not currently projected to make the opening day roster would be a Miguel Vargas. So that is looking like the potential opportunity if you believe Gavin Lux needs a little bit more of a reset at AAA. That's all we're going to really talk about with Gavin Lux in his situation right now. I know you guys probably have a lot of thoughts. I still believe in Gavin Lux, and I still think that positive nature, we still need to emulate that. We still need to emulate the culture of the Dodgers. I know it's frustrating, and I know there's nobody more frustrated than him. But that's all I'm going to speak to that, because we have other areas to address, and that has to do with this pitching staff, with the bullpen, with how everything is going to be formulated on this roster. So let's go ahead, let's dive into this a little bit onto this roster. Obviously, the two locks for the team to make the trip to Korea, Tyler Glasnow, opening day starter, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who's going to make the Game 2 start. Those are the two locks. It also sounds like Bobby Miller will be making the trip over, although he's probably going to be pitching in an exhibition game as he continues to get ready for opening day. You got to see him pitch today. There was some good, gave up a couple of runs. Defense didn't really help him today. I still expect Bobby Miller to be dominant through the course of this season. James Paxton sounds like he might not be on the roster in Korea, but he will definitely be on the roster for opening day. So let's go ahead and write him in for the opening day roster. And then Gavin Stone, Michael Grove are going to be making the trip over to Korea. In the bullpen, we have Evan Phillips being that late inning closer, along with Joe Kelly and Ryan Brazier being in that rotation later in games for the Dodgers. And then you have a little bit of question marks as far as who's going to be on there. Ryan Yarbrough, at this point, is going to play a role, a factor early in the season for the Dodgers with some of the injuries that they are sustaining. If you had a healthy Nick Frasso, if you had a healthy Emmett Sheehan, if you had some of these healthy younger guys that you wanted to get experience, perhaps he would be somebody that you look to as somebody you don't need on this roster. Right now, you need a Ryan Yarbrough just to keep your guys as healthy and as fresh as possible. Ryan Yarbrough provides that necessary depth to this team. He's going to be a part of this club as well. Daniel Hudson is a very likely addition to this Dodgers team. And to add Daniel Hudson, who is currently not on the 40-man roster, he very likely takes the Nick Frasso spot. You can move Nick Frasso still to the 60-day injured list and add a Daniel Hudson. He is, I would say, there's a 95 to 99% shot that Daniel Hudson is going to be on this opening day roster. And so you expect a spot for him. Then it goes to a couple of other different arms that you could see. Alex Vesia, at this point, probably makes the roster, although I'm not entirely sure as well. I think that might depend on how Blake Trinan is doing as well. A Justin Wilson is a very intriguing case because if you take Nick Frasso's spot and give it to Daniel Hudson, you are either going to have to add Walker Buehler to the 60-day injured list, or you're going to have to designate somebody for assignment, something I know the Dodgers do not want to do. However, if they believe that Justin Wilson, who has performed really well and pitched a good inning today, is going to be a crucial part to this club, and they feel like they need another left-handed bullpen piece, they very well could make that decision, very similar to how they've made other decisions as well, designates guys to assignment, to open up roster spots for this club, to open up a roster spot for a guy like a Ryan Brazier. I think Justin Wilson has a very good shot to make this roster either to Korea or to the domestic opening day against St. Louis. I think those are two intriguing names. A couple of other names to keep in mind. JP Feyereisen, he has two minor league options. Somebody who has pitched a lot in spring training this year. And especially if a Blake Trinan isn't ready to go, you could see JP Feyereisen take that spot. Kyle Hurt is somebody that I and Casey have been pushing for to get a roster spot because of that phenomenal strikeout percentage that he has had, because of the effectiveness of his stuff. He's still fighting for a starting pitching role. It's not just that he is an exclusively relief pitcher, which I think we often think of Kyle Hurt because that is the most likely route to him making the major leagues. No. Kyle Hurt has been a starting pitcher for this Dodgers team in the minor league system. He has grown up being that starting pitcher piece. He has played a little bit of that piggyback type role, which has been a starting position for this Dodgers team, or a bulk inning type of piece for this Dodgers team. Kyle Hurt, he is still very much in this competition. The only reason why I could see potentially the Dodgers would want to send him down has to do that he only has 27 or so innings at the AAA level. If they want to see Kyle Hurt get a little bit more experience in AAA, they could. Don't keep this guy down there forever, though, because this is a beast. This is somebody that is going to make an impact for your club. He was the best, or one of the best strikeout pitchers, not just in the Dodgers system, in all of minor league baseball last year, getting a ton of swinging misses. And I know that's minor league baseball. He still has to prove it at the big league level. What else does he have to show to get that opportunity at the big league level as he gets older? I fully expect Kyle Hurt to make an impact coming up for this Dodgers club. It's going to be a question of whether the Dodgers have a role for him ready to go on opening day. And then if not opening day, when? And we'll see through the course of baseball. Injuries do happen, and there will be an opportunity for Kyle Hurt at some point. I hope it's sooner rather than later, not because of injuries, but because of Kyle Hurt and his ability to get a bunch of hitters out and just overperform and force his way onto the roster. And I know that Kyle Hurt's going to go out and absolutely do that, whether that be for opening day or whether that be for later. So a lot of exciting stuff right there. I also want to get into some of the roster cuts that the Dodgers made. These guys are still part of the organization. However, they will not be making the opening day roster. This was announced yesterday by the club. The Dodgers optioned Matt Gage, left-handed pitcher, the guy that the Dodgers got in the trade with the Yankees. He won't be making the opening day roster. He still had a couple of different options, which I think was important in the Caleb Ferguson trade, because they could have a little bit of roster flexibility with a guy like a Matt Gage. They also optioned down Andre Lipsius, acquired from the Detroit Tigers last week, and I still think he's going to have pieces. He's still going to have opportunities, and when he's surrounded by this environment of the Dodgers, I think that's going to be a real positive experience for him. And I fully expect Andre Lipsius to continue to fight, use his plate discipline to his advantage, and when an opportunity arises for him to come up to the big league level and take advantage of that. In addition, there has been some other pitchers and position players that have been assigned to minor league camp. A bunch of guys that Casey and I are incredibly excited about. A guy like a Kevin Gowdy, who came to the Dodgers organization last year and really took off. You saw, Casey has talked about this quite a bit, how the change in some of the approach, change in some of this pitch mix really made an impact late in the season last year. And we saw the effectiveness of Kevin Gowdy later in the season. In addition, Eliezer Hernandez has been optioned down. Top prospect catcher Dalton Rushing, who hasn't had a great major league spring training so far, yet do not forget about how good Dalton Rushing is. He has been optioned to the minor leagues. I expect him to get a lot of time in Double-A Tulsa this season. I'm excited to see how he's able to do. Trey Sweeney, shortstop, has been optioned down as well. He still needs some experience at the AAA level, as well as infielder Austin Gauthier, who If you have not had a chance to watch the prospect future, the launch angle, or whatever Casey called it, that was just posted yesterday, highly recommend watching that. It gives you a great inside glimpse of Austin Gauthier and just the incredible talent that he is and the approach that he takes to the game, as well as the production that he had last season. I also wrote an article about Austin Gauthier defying the odds. Highly recommend you check that out. And then 3 outfielders were also optioned down. Drew Avens, one of the best baseball IQs and hustle athletes in this system, has been optioned down again to Oklahoma City, as well as Ryan Wardo. He's going to be spending some more time in Oklahoma City. And Jose Ramos, who has really impressed Dodgers fans this spring with his power, with some of his speed, with his defense, with some of the tools that very much are reminiscent of an Andy Pages. He is going to be spending some more time in the minor leagues. I'm expecting him and looking forward to see how he's able to improve some of the peripherals in his game, because if he can make a little bit more contact, I think that's going to go a long way for Jose Ramos. And these are just the latest cuts that the Dodgers made to the roster. There's going to be more moves going forward because we are just 9 days away from spring training. How excited is this? We are just on the cusp of opening day. 9 days away from opening day. I think I said spring training. 9 days away from opening day. Dodgers, Padres, we're all going to lose sleep over this because it's going to be in the middle of the night or very early morning for me. Yet I know for you guys, I know for Dodgers fans, and I know for myself as well, we cannot be more excited. We can't anticipate this enough, because this season is going to be huge for the Dodgers. The Dodgers have gone all in. They have spent a ton of money on this club. And is this club perfect? Right now, you can tell that the club is not perfect. Hardly ever is there any baseball club that is perfect. They have put themselves in the best position that they can so far to succeed. There are still holes, there are still areas that need to be addressed, and yes, the Dodgers will address it. They have given us no reason to doubt the Dodgers going forward, or at least in this offseason, that they won't spend the necessary resources to fix what they have to fix on this big league club. There is too much riding on this season, and they're going to go all out, all in for this club. They are going to make the moves that they have to, whether that be addressing the bullpen, whether that be addressing the infield, whether that be addressing some of the outfield if Jason Hayward ends up struggling, or starting pitching for some of the starting pitching depth. The Dodgers will address the areas of need as they must. They also have a lot of depth that they can lean to into this farm system if they need to at least get them some big league experience, even if they decide to move on from them, trade some of these pieces later to get major league, a little bit of a higher floor type of pieces. This is going to be this is going to be an exciting season. It is not without competition, because I think still some of the clubs in the National League West are still going to be competitive, like in Arizona, who, let's not forget, made it to the World Series last year. Did they overachieve? Probably. They added a couple of really cool, intriguing pieces as well in Eugenio Suarez, Eduardo Rodriguez. They brought back Lourdes Gurriel Jr. A lot of really intriguing pieces for a young, dynamic Arizona team. San Francisco, they've added a couple of pieces. Jung-Hoo Lee, Matt Chapman. The pitching might be a little bit of an iffy situation, but they're still going to be at least somewhat competitive. San Diego, even though we all like to make fun of the Padres and what happened last season, they still really underperformed their run differential. So there's a question as far as whether they can potentially bounce back and whether the run differential is an indication of a little bit of a rebound. I still am fully anticipating the Dodgers to win the National League West. This season isn't going to be without competition. This isn't going to be without some of the struggles, but those struggles that the Dodgers are going to go through are going to breed character. And I think that is something that is really important for this Dodgers club to overcome, and I hope it is something that they lean into. Just because you spend $1 billion does not mean that the World Series is guaranteed. Does not mean that you deserve to win the World Series. The offseason is just about over. The regular season is about to begin, and every single team starts off with the exact same record, 0-0. All of the Dodgers' hopes and dreams have to come down to executing on the field. That is what they're going to have to do. They have the talent to be able to execute at the highest level and win as many games as they possibly can. It is about the execution. It is about performance. They have a good culture to be able to do this. We'll see. It is all about the championship for this Dodgers club. We are here live Monday night. It's a fun show with you guys as we continue to be here on Dodgers Dawgs here at the Dodgers Daily Network. I'm going to go ahead and get back into the comment section. I know you guys have tuned in with me so far. I'm appreciative of you guys, and I'm excited to be able to get back into the chat and be able to talk a little bit about what you guys want to talk about. Again, I won't spend too much time on the Gavin Lux situation. I know we've kind of run that into the wall a little bit. Casey and I have. I understand the frustration. And if you believe that Miguel Vargas should be on the club and give Gavin Lux some time to be able to recoup in AAA, I can't really blame you right now for Gavin Lux because of some of the struggles that we have seen. And just to give him a little bit of a reset in a less of a high pressure situation. I would totally understand that. That is something that the Dodgers are going to have to decide, though. So, Geraldo Garcia, thank you very much for joining us here on the Dodgers Daily Network, talking a little bit about Gavin Lux and some of the mental mistakes. And yeah, there has been some mental mistakes for him as well. Justin Lamas, thank you very much for joining us on as well as BC. Justin Lama said, afternoon, evening, mate. Just curious, what are you going to have for breakfast while you watch the Korea series? Beer or coffee? That is a good question, Justin. I actually don't really drink a whole lot of alcohol. That just hasn't really been a whole lot of preference. You can call me crazy or whatever. For breakfast, I'll probably be eating some of the leftover Lucky Charms that I'll be getting because of St. Patrick's Day that's coming up. I'll probably be getting a whole bunch of Lucky Charms in celebration of St. Patrick's Day. And then maybe a little bit... I don't even really drink coffee that much, too. Maybe we have... I honestly don't even know what I would have to drink. I don't really drink or eat a lot for breakfast a whole lot. Maybe some donuts every once in a while in celebration of the Dodgers. Craig Osterberg, thank you very much for joining. Says, hi, Austin. Chris says, let's go Dodgers. And that is absolutely right. Let's go Dodgers. We are excited for this Dodgers club here on the Dodgers Daily Network. And you guys are an amazing part of this journey. Thank you so much for joining us here on Dodgers Dawgs, here as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Gregory, thank you for joining us as well. Says, what's up, everybody? Craig Osterberg says, Get Lux is still throwing dead fish to first base. I don't think he is making the starting opening day lineup. His head isn't the right place. And I can't blame you for that necessarily. I think there's still a lot of frustration because the results haven't been there for Gavin Lux. I hope that he's going to be able to figure it out. I still have confidence that he can because he has performed well in the past. He has had positive defensive outlook, Gavin Lux has in the past. Been an above average defensive player at second base. Right now, he's not executing right now, and that has been and continues to be a bit of a disappointment for him. I have no doubt that he will continue to work on this and continue to make strides to becoming a major league player. So be patient with Gavin Lux, and I hope that he's able to figure it out. Let's see. David E says, hey Austin, when do the minor league clubs announce their roster? So curious on who moves up. That's actually a really good question. So the minor league rosters, it's a little bit infrequent as far as when they get announced. It will likely be about a week or so before opening day. Now there's a little bit of different opening days for the affiliates. Oklahoma City is going to start about a week before AA, High A, and Low A. So Oklahoma City is going to start a little bit before Tulsa, Great Lakes, and Rancho. So their roster will likely be announced maybe in about 2-ish weeks or so, maybe about 4 to 5-ish days before opening day. And then for Tulsa, Great Lakes, and Rancho, theirs will be similarly 4 to 5 days before opening day. So you might be getting a April Fool's Day roster reveal for the Great Lakes Loons, for the Tulsa Drillers, and for the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, except it won't be an April Fool's joke. It will be the actual rosters released sometime around there, either that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. Maybe a little bit before. That's kind of the timetable that the rosters will be announced. You can kind of anticipate some of the moves, although last year I was kind of surprised by some of the moves that the Dodgers made in this system. It's going to be really intriguing to see how aggressive they are moving these guys up, or what they believe is the best level for each one of these prospects, because there is a lot of great talent in this system, and we will be covering when the rosters get announced, who is going to be on the rosters, what this means, and why you should be excited about each and every single one of those players, because every single player in this Dodgers system is worth covering. We're going to do our very best to provide input and analysis on each one of those guys. So thank you for the question, David. I'm excited to see those rosters be announced. One of my favorite days for that roster is announced, just like it was one of my favorite days when the Dodgers announced their affiliates for the coaches that are part of the system as well. Chris, thank you very much for joining us. States that I'll be getting up early, so maybe getting to bed a little bit earlier, just like I tried to do this past week. So it was daylight savings here, just as it was on the West Coast, and I gotta be up at 5:30. I gotta leave the house at 6:30 Sunday morning. So getting up for daylight savings, I thought, you know what, I'll go to bed about an hour earlier and try to beat the time. That did not work out because, of course, I couldn't sleep as I was trying to go to bed a little bit earlier. Hopefully that does not happen with the excitement that you're going to feel on opening day, although I'm sure that the excitement probably is going to overwhelm. It's going to be like Christmas morning where you can't sleep, but it doesn't even matter because Dodgers baseball is going to be on, and Tyler Glasnow is going to be taking the mound for the Dodgers on opening day. Denard, thank you very much for joining. Greetings to you as well. Craig Osterberg states that he's going to get to bed early and wake up early, as I think is probably the smart move instead of staying up all night, although I can't help but think that a lot of people just can't help but stay up all night in anticipating for Dodgers baseball. Denard states, should Gavin Lux start the season at AAA Oklahoma City to take the rust off and get over the mental issues of playing baseball all over again? That's a really good question, one that this coaching staff, one that this player development staff is going to have to make a determination, because right now he hasn't been performing very well. What is going to be the best thing for Gavin Lux going forward, and what is going to be the best thing for the Dodgers? That is something that the Dodgers are going to have to determine, and it's very likely going to come down to Gavin Lux or Miguel Vargas. So I don't know what the answer is. He has been struggling. The defense has been ugly. And so we'll have to wait and see as far as that determination continues to go. And yes, Gavin Lux does have some AAA options. He does have 2 minor league options as well. So you won't have to worry about exercising those options, which makes it very likely that they could send him down to the minor league level to at least open up the season. Gregory, Austin, do you think the Dodgers are done acquiring players this season? If not, who will they be looking at for? Great question, Gregory. And this is a question that I don't know the answer to quite yet. However, I know the Dodgers are not done going after and looking to acquire talent to help this club. They are too committed. This team is too bought into the 2024 season to just stop with this roster and not make it, as Casey calls it, as airtight as they possibly can. They are going to try to fix every single issue that is a part of this club, every single possibility that could be a weakness at some point in the season. The question is, when do they decide to pull the trigger? That is the necessary thing that the Dodgers have to answer. Is it a necessity immediately to get a shortstop, to get a middle infielder for this team? That is a question that the Dodgers are going to have to answer. And I don't think the answer necessarily has to be yes right now. The Dodgers have a lot of middle infielder options. Let's put Gavin Lux off to the side. You have Mookie Betts, who right now is going to be the shortstop every day for this club. You also have a Miggy Rojas, who I know is not the greatest offensive player, greatest offensive infielder in the world. Defensively, he is sound. He is rock solid. And if you want to go for a defensive profile, Miggy Rojas is that guy. Chris Taylor can play the infield positions. Kike Hernandez can also play the infield positions. You have 4 different guys that can fill the holes at shortstop and second base before you even get to a Gavin Lux. So there are options for this Dodgers club. The question is, who could they possibly acquire to get and fill that role that other teams are willing to give up? Because I don't know if the Brewers are willing to give up Willy Adames immediately right now unless the Dodgers overwhelm them in a trade. Are you willing to give up completely on the player that is Gavin Lux to go after and acquire a Willy Adames in a Willy Adames for Gavin Lux trade? And I know right now Gavin Lux isn't giving you a reason to believe in him. He has showcased in the talent that he still is a good player and he still has 3 years of control as opposed to Adames 1 year. Is this team too bought in that they have to go after a move like that? Or do they go after some other infield talent? I don't know who that is right now. So the question is who, and the question is, do the Dodgers feel that it is so overwhelming right now that they are willing to give up of potentially making this team as airtight as possible later down the road? Could these patches be filled up with guys currently on the roster, or is it a necessity to go after somebody else? That is a question I'm not entirely sure. As far as the pitching staff, I don't anticipate the Dodgers going after anybody immediately. I think they have enough depth, even with the injuries, even if it's something where Blake Trinan and Brusdar Graterol had to miss a couple of weeks. I still think they have enough depth on this club to be able to withstand the first half of the season before some of the guys get healthy again, the Clayton Kershaw, the Walker Buehler, some of those great starting pitchers. I think they have enough depth to where they can allow those guys to get healthy, allow an Emmett Sheehan to come back and get healthy as well. And I think they can supplement that potentially at the trade deadline as needed with some of the holes that they have, whether they're dealing with some lack of starting pitching or whether they have to go after a left-handed relief piece or another dominant closer type piece. I think the Dodgers are going to wait for their roster options, their roster flexibility for that. I also think they want to see how Jason Hayward does in the outfield. Do they want to call up an Andy Pages later? They don't need to go after an outfielder right now. I think the only areas that this Dodgers team is sole focused on potentially addressing is the middle infield and maybe some of the pitching depth. But I don't believe it is an absolute necessity right now because of the depth that you have at each one of those positions. I think you let it play out for now. If it becomes absolutely necessary that you have to address it, that is when you address it. Right now, it is not absolutely necessary. It is an absolute cause for concern, and perhaps you believe it is absolutely necessary. The Dodgers do have options that they can play with right now, with a Chris Taylor, with a Miggy Rojas, with a Kike Hernandez, who, if needed to, can fill in and get more at-bats than anticipated. You also have a lot of good, solid, younger guys that can fill in as needed in the pitching side with a Kyle Hurt, with a Michael Grove, with some of these other great arms that they have. Not even mentioning some of the guys that aren't on the 40-man roster that you could call up, like a John Rooney or Alec Gamboa or any of these other great pitchers. There still is a lot of depth that I don't think it is an absolute necessity to go out and get somebody yet. I know that seems to be the way that the Dodgers, and perhaps I'm totally wrong, perhaps the Dodgers are going to go after and get a shortstop or a second baseman right now because they don't want Mookie Betts to play shortstop, and they feel like that is the need that the Dodgers have. Right now, they don't have to make that decision, though. So hopefully that answers a little bit of your question. Justin Lama says, no, they acquire a shortstop and another starting pitcher. I could totally see that as well. I just don't think they have to do it quite yet. And I don't think the Dodgers want to give away all their trade pieces before some other leak happens in your bubble that you're trying to build to make it as airtight as possible, because other issues, other situations can and likely will arise to where is this going to be the absolute most pressing need for the Dodgers all season long is the question the Dodgers have to answer. So we'll see what happens. Normally says Cleveland depends on pitching, contact hitting, speed, and defense, and it showed. Dodgers rely on power on both ends and not much else, and it showed today. I think there's a little bit of different styles of play, clearly, that Cleveland and the Dodgers have. Cleveland very much relies on more of that contact-oriented approach. They do have a couple of good hitters as well. If you look at a Jose Ramirez at third base, he has been absolutely killer at that position, a really good, solid third baseman that any organization would love to have. They also have a good, young, solid, dynamic offense that's a little bit inconsistent at times, especially through the course of a lack of power production. When you don't have power on your club, when you rely exclusively on contact hitting and speed, you're becoming reliant on batting average on balls in play, which can vary very much from season to season, can vary very much on the outcome with the way that you're able to hit the ball. And also, especially if you're not hitting the ball with a ton of velocity, that can breed some inconsistencies for your club. So I think the way that the Dodgers have approached it, with the power that they have, with the ability to draw a lot of bases, to walk a lot, which is something that's critical, something that's important, I think it's still a very good, solid aspect that the Dodgers club have. It can lead to some inconsistencies at time if you don't have the power that you have working on a consistent everyday basis. You're going to go through a little bit of slumps, but through the course of the full regular season, I think it is better to have that power impact that the Dodgers have. Although every single club is going to win at least a handful of games. The Guardians ended up winning today's game. They have some speed, they have some contact. I'd love to see that be implemented a little bit into this Dodgers club, just because I think that would add a little bit of dynamic ability. However, I still think what the Dodgers and their hitters have, Cleveland would make that trade for those guys every single day of the week, because the Dodgers have an incredible lineup, and I still have full trust that this club is going to be a real run-producing force in the National League and in the game of baseball. So, wasn't the outcome, as far as score-wise, that you would have wanted, would you have anticipated? However, these Dodgers still have a really good club, and yes, Cleveland hasn't performed really well recently in the postseason, especially against the Yankees. I don't want to trash on the Guardians, though. They're still a good, solid run organization. Showtime LA, thank you very much for joining us. We talked a little bit about Gavin Lux a little bit. Carlos Garcia talks about give Gavin Lux a chance. Showtime LA, Lux has to go. A lot of interesting dynamics that have to do with Gavin Lux. We've talked a little bit about it on the show and on previous shows as well. He has struggled right now. We'll have to see how the Dodgers handle the situation. I still have absolute belief that he can be a great player for this club. And there's good reason why Casey and I have talked a lot about Gavin Lux and still believe that he can be. Right now, he hasn't been performing right now. So Carlos Garcia has mentioned a couple of guys that could be the answer. CT3, Chris Taylor, and Miggy Rowe and his defense. Those are a couple of options of how you could have this guy. They could fill in at the shortstop position or at the second base position as needed. Denard, Mookie Betts playing shortstop makes sense. Dodgers won 100 games with Miggy Rojas last year, and that makes sense. Is a little bit of a question. That's a really good question. And I think the reason why you would have Mookie Betts be at shortstop has to do with you want to give Gavin Lux a shot on this roster. If it's going to be Miggy Rowe and CT3, and you're not worried about Gavin Lux being part of the situation, then you would have Mookie Betts be at the less taxing position at second base, a position that he has historically been good at and has grown up through his minor league career at second base. Started out his big league career at second base and spent a little bit of time last year there as well, and what he anticipated going into the season to play second base. So the question is, if the Dodgers want to give Gavin Lux and have his bat be part of the lineup and still believe that he can be the defensive player that he has shown in the past, that's why you have Mookie Betts at shortstop. But I think it's a really good point. The Dodgers were still able to succeed and have a really good season, even if they had a Chris Taylor or a Miggy Rojas be a part of the shortstop position. That is a really good, excellent point as well. We got another comment. July 2nd is Japanese Heritage Night. Japanese Dodgers jersey is nice, almost as good as the new Fanatics jersey. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights as well is joining us as well. Carlos Garcia, question, who wins the fifth starter job? Really good question. Right now, if you had to project it, especially because Emmett Sheehan is not going to start the season with the big league club, he's going to be starting the season on the injured list, I would say the most likely pitcher to be the fifth starting pitcher is Gavin Stone. And that is because the improvements and the success that we have seen from Gavin Stone this spring, because of the improvements and adjustments that he had to make last season during the regular season at the minor league level. He got called up to the big leagues early, probably before he was ready to make his big league debut. He was dominant through the course of 2022. Best pitcher in minor league baseball. Got called up, struggled a little bit, changed a lot of his approach, became a little bit more of an east and west pitcher, added some pitches that he can throw a little bit more and rely upon in the zone. And we've seen that on display for Gavin Stone this spring training. That doesn't mean that it will always anticipate or roll over to the regular season. However, we are seeing a lot of great things out of Gavin Stone that can lead to success for him down the road in the future. And I was already expecting Gavin Stone to spend at least a little bit of time through the course of this season at the big league level, because I think he needs to have some innings at the big league level to show that he can be the pitcher that he was in 2022. We're starting to see a little bit of Gavin Stone from 2022 this year in spring training, and I think the Dodgers, with the way their offense is, their pitchers don't have to be perfect every single time because of the run-producing nature of Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, James Outman, Teoscar Hernandez, and the rest of this lineup have Will Smith as well. All of these guys are great run producers that are going to help out any pitcher on the staff. I think we could see this be a real opportunity for Gavin Stone to get comfortable at the big league level. Right now, if I had to forecast it, I would say that he is the most likely option. The other name that is kind of thrown out there as well is a Michael Grove, who has pitched in relief outings before, who might struggle at times, yet sometimes he'll go out there like he did the other day and just be phenomenal, especially with that slider that he has, and be absolutely dominant where he has to enter the equation. However, I still think Gavin Stone is a very likely the fifth starting pitching option for the Dodgers. Don't be surprised if Michael Grove still makes this major league roster. He has anticipated and expected to make the trip over to Korea, and I would not be surprised if he makes the opening day roster as well. It's going to be tough, but with some of the injuries that have occurred, because you don't know exactly the status of Blake Trinan, even though it seems to be good and probably will be healthy, ready to go for at least domestic opening day, there could be an opening for a Michael Grove with the situation with Brusdar Graterol. Some of the other options I mentioned, Ryan Yarbrough could still be an option for that fifth roster spot, for the fifth starting position spot, although I think he's going to be a really useful piece, that long relief pitcher out of the bullpen. Kyle Hurt's another option, although he has 100 less AAA innings than a Gavin Stone, so you could see a little bit of discrepancy as far as upper minor league experience. Doesn't mean Kyle Hurt doesn't deserve the opportunity at the big league level. He absolutely does. But if you have to project it right now, and Fangraphs is projecting Gavin Stone to be that fifth opening day starter. So Denard also states if Gavin Stone becomes the next Bobby Miller, who's the odd man out if Walker Buehler returns? That is a phenomenal question, and this is the best case scenario for the Dodgers. And this is something that you should be rooting for as Dodgers fans. Have Gavin Stone become a great starting pitcher. Have Gavin Stone be the next Bobby Miller, where the Dodgers feel like they have to keep Gavin Stone as part of this lineup. And then that it presents a really unique, dynamic decision that the Dodgers are going to have to make. The type of decision that this organization and club wants to have to make. With your young, dynamic, effective, cost-controlling, young starting pitcher that so many other clubs envy and strive to have, versus your veteran guy who has proven in the past that they can and will dominate during the postseason. That is an interesting dynamic that the Dodgers could do one of two ways. They can have a good, solid, cost-controlling, young starting pitcher who can be a real impact force for this club for years to come at the starting pitching mound, or they could trade a Gavin Stone and potentially get a really good shortstop that they could use for years to come, or whatever other impact piece. That creates an interesting dynamic, and why you should be rooting for each one of these guys to succeed. The more Dodgers that succeed, the more guys have success, it doesn't create problems. It does create some problems. It creates the best kind of problems. Too much of a good thing, too much of dessert allows you to be able to allocate different resources and make unique, interesting trades to go out and get other pieces in other organizations. And why we spend a lot of time talking about the prospects of the minor league level, because if you have a good, healthy farm system that creates options, and that alludes to the depth that this club has and allows you to get the necessary pieces to make this club as airtight as possible. So if it came to a decision, Gavin Stone versus a Walker Buehler, if Gavin Stone becomes the next Bobby Miller, it won't be the exact type of pitcher that Bobby Miller is with that 100 mile per hour fastball and that nasty effective stuff. He'll be a little bit of a different type of pitcher. But if he has the effectiveness that Bobby Miller has, I don't know what the Dodgers do in that situation, because Walker Buehler very likely reaches free agency next season. His free agency market likely has taken a little bit of a drop in comparison to what it had a couple of years ago, the anticipated return that he has. So could the Dodgers look to keep a Walker Buehler who has been historically great for this Dodgers? Or could they take a little bit of a different approach that they haven't and lean a little bit more on the younger guys? Good problems to have, but one that we don't know quite yet for this club. Gregory says, Austin, who is your dark horse on the Dodgers position player and your dark horse on the pitching staff? That's a great question, because there's especially if you look at the major league club, there is a lot of really good talent that is already very well known for this Dodgers club. There's a lot of known quantities. You know how good of a player Shohei Ohtani is, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. So typically for a dark horse, you're looking for those underrated type of players that kind of catch you a little bit about surprise, or could be one of those guys that you look back on and you recognize, hey, they are one of the best players in this organization for this major league club. And I don't necessarily know if I have a dark horse right now for this club. That might be something that I have to look into a little bit more for this club. You could go with some of the answers that we've talked a lot about before. You could go with maybe, and as I mentioned before, like I still think Andy Pages could and can make the postseason roster for the Dodgers. That's somebody who I showed last Monday a clip of Andy Pages in action for the Great Lakes Loons for that historic season-changing home run that he made, or at least season-extending home run. So you could see somebody like that. On the big league roster, I don't think there's necessarily a dark horse just because I think they are all phenomenal, great players. You could say a James Outman won't have a sophomore slump. You could say that he continues to prove that he is one of the best center fielders according to WAR out there. He was a top 5 center fielder by WAR, or top 10. He had a 4.4 WAR last year. I could say that has a little bit of a continuation of that this upcoming season. Pitching side, I'd have to look into that a little bit more, at least to do a little bit more evaluation or thinking. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll go a little bit of a dark horse right here. I won't be surprised if we are hearing or starting to hear rumblings of a guy like a Justin Robleski knocking on the door to the major league level towards the end of this upcoming season. Robo, as he is called, Justin Robleski, pitched all of last season in High A Great Lakes, and he was simply phenomenal during his time. I couldn't have been more impressed with Justin Robleski and the effectiveness that he had. Starting pitcher, he got even more better he got better and better as the season went on, and he became the ace. He became the rock at which the Loons had on their pitching side, and I think he's somebody who can move up quickly. Left-handed pitcher. It's going to be difficult because of the amount of arms that are in the upper levels of the minor league system, but he is really good, really talented. Actually going to get a little bit of clips of him out here, adding a little bit of new technology to Dodgers Dawgs. So this is a little bit of Justin Robleski. You're getting a little bit of him right now, so we'll go ahead and leave that on right now. Hold on just a second. We'll go ahead and leave that on. Actually, we'll just cut it back right over to me right now. That is Justin Robleski. I would not be surprised if he is making at least a little bit of an impact towards the end of next season, towards to making this big league roster, or at least pushing towards that. So that is a great question right there. Something I'll do a little bit more research and dive into that a little bit more as far as the analytical side of things as dark horse. Denard asks, how do you watch the Dodgers minor league games during the season? That is a great question. I think there's a couple of different options that you have. One, you do have access to the Dodgers minor league games via MLB TV, MLB.TV, which I know not everybody has, especially if you're in the California market because of the blackout restrictions. Why would I get MLB TV if I'm not going to have access to watch the Dodgers games? That is a way to watch these games. There is also MILB TV, Minor League Baseball TV, that you can watch these games. You can watch these clubs on as well. I believe that is closer to $7, $8, $9 a month, where you can get access to games, all games on the minor league system. There is no blackout restrictions except for maybe one or two teams. It does not affect any of the clubs in the Dodgers system. You can watch Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Great Lakes, and Rancho via MILB TV. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way and go to these minor league facilities if you have access to. I will be going to probably at least 30, if not closer to 40 Great Lakes Loons games through the course of this season. It was going to be a lot of fun. Some of the most fun that you can have is being in a little bit more of that intimate environment at the minor league level. Nobody does it better than the Great Lakes Loons, or perhaps the club that is closest to you. Highly, highly encourage you to do that. But either watch it through MLB TV or MILB TV. You can go ahead and check those out. Highly encourage you to watch the guys in this system. They definitely deserve to have you guys watch them. Justin Lama is actually, I'm going to take a little bit of drink of water before I get to the question real quick. Justin Lama says, bad news coming out of the Bronx. That probably means Snell goes there now. Domino effect. He'd be leaving the division. If Blake Snell went to New York, as far as the Yankees, and I don't know if any news has broken since I've been going live. I know there was some rumblings earlier this morning about Garrett Cole and his health. I don't know if there's been any additional news since I've gone live. If that is the case, you could very well see the Yankees making a pivot towards Blake Snell, in which case he is out of the division. Does it have as much of an impact as it did 2 years ago when the Dodgers didn't play every single team? Perhaps not, but it is still impactful, and it would take him out of the National League, move him to the American League. That would have a big impact for the Dodgers. We'll have to wait and see. We are March 11th, and Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery still have not signed. That is disappointing for the game of baseball. Definitely. Carlos Garcia says, question, who hits the Dodgers' first run if we're talking about opening day for Korea? I mean, how could you not say it's going to be anybody? How can you say it's going to be anybody else besides a Shohei Ohtani? But I'll go ahead and say it's going to be somebody else than a Shohei Ohtani. I'll go with Max Muncy. Max Muncy is going to drive in the first run for the Dodgers opening day in Korea. Perhaps I'm a little bit inaccurate on that statement, but that's what I'm going to say. Denard says, it seems like since MLB banned sticky substance, there's a significant uprise in pitchers' arm injuries. Should it be allowed to avoid future injuries? That's a really good question, and I don't know if there's been any studies to this point looking at pitchers' arms injuries and the effect of those. I don't believe there has been that type of study quite yet, and you could deal with a little bit of a correlation, not meaning causation type of issue, because we're talking about the MLB cracking down on sticky substance and their use. You're also talking about the time frame when this 2020 season happened. There was no pitching, there was no baseball for the minor league level, only a 60-game season at the major league level. Then they had to ramp it up for a full 2021 season. Perhaps there is a little bit of an impact that has played in it, meaning that they are coming around the similar time frame where it might be a little bit to make a definite, oh, it's the sticky substance that are causing some of the injuries, or, oh, it was the 2020 season and the lack of pitching that pitchers have. Or it could just be that pitchers are throwing harder than ever, and they are told to go all out. They're trying to go for they're trying to go for maximum output instead of trying to extend the run. They're trying to be the most efficient and best possible version that they can be in the shortest time period. It doesn't matter how short the time period is. Be the best version of yourself every single time. That could be causing it. There's a wide variety of different factors. This is the big question in the game of baseball, and something that these teams I know are trying to figure out, or know are trying to figure out a way to limit these injuries. The human arm was not designed to throw this hard, yet these guys are so good and so talented that they continue to do so. It is frustrating when pitchers do end up getting injured, and I hope they are able to find a way to be able to fix this issue going forward as we get better and better science and continue to improve in the way our understanding of humans and the game of baseball. So, great question. I don't know if sticky substance is the cause, or the removal of sticky substance is the cause. If there is a proven association between sticky substance and major league pitchers and their injuries, if sticky substances help major league pitchers stay healthy, then you could have a case for bringing those back in the game. But right now, Major League Baseball is enforcing that, trying to limit some of the cheating that teams have been doing, trying to make sure this game is as competitive and fair as possible. So I don't expect any sort of change in the near future, because that is a very difficult study to have happen, and very difficult. They're very difficult to be able to make any sort of cause in that. Carlos Garcia says, how about Teoscar Hernandez for dark horse? You could very well say that, and you could very well say that, especially with him being, you could argue, being the 6th, 5th, 7th best hitter in the lineup, maybe 4th best hitter in the lineup. You could see him having a real impact, because he's going to get a lot of pitches to hit this upcoming season. And if he's able to limit some of the strikeouts that he have, if he's able to bump up his plate discipline and really lean into his playmaking ability that he has, he's got a ton of pop. He's got a ton of power. You could see Teoscar Hernandez hitting 25, 30 home runs to add to the power that the rest of this lineup has. That's going to be crucial. And I could very well see Teoscar Hernandez being a dark horse, real impact player for this team. Denard says, which minor league hitter, pitcher impressed you the most in spring training? That is a great question. I think for a lot of Dodgers fans, they would probably say, as far as the hitting side, probably Andy Pages. And I think you're just seeing just a little bit of a glimpse of the type of dynamic and playmaking ability player that Andy Pages has, and the health just the overall power and outfield arm that he has, that he can contribute. He very well is one of those guys that has impressed a lot. On the pitching side, I'll actually go with somebody that pitched an outing during today's game, and that is Ben Harris. Ben Harris in 2022 was probably one of, if not the best relievers in all of minor league baseball, and his strikeout numbers were just absolutely insane. They're actually to the point where there is an article from Fangraphs talking about who is this guy, Ben Harris, and what he's able to do. And it's not like he has the dominant 100 mile per hour fastball. He has an ability to hide the baseball in unique ways that hitters just aren't able to see it as well at all. And in 2022, in Rancho Cucamonga, he struck out 46.1% of hitters. And then he continued that in Great Lakes, striking out 43.6% of hitters. Last year, not going to sugarcoat it a little bit, was a little bit of a struggle for him. His strikeout abilities dropped closer to 32%, which is still really good. The results weren't there because he wasn't able to keep it in the strike zone. But this season, through the course of the spring training, Ben Harris has really proved that he can be that type of pitcher that he was in 2022. He has put up a lot of really good numbers for this team. He's been one of the pitchers that I've looked to and just been incredibly impressed with him. And you saw a little bit of his outing today. Yeah, he's had a couple of innings. He's had 3 different strikeouts. In his appearances, he has performed really well. Michael Hobbs has been another guy that has shown as a prospect, the all-time saves leader out of St. Mary's. Somebody who was a real impact relief pitcher for the Dodgers last year. He's really shown really well during the course of this season or the spring training that he can pitch really well. A lot of good, fun, dynamic players that are a part of this Dodgers club. You've also gotten a chance to see Austin Gauthier play really well. You got a chance to see today Yeiner Fernandez hit for that double. You got to see some of the breakout of a Jose Ramos, have him be able to step up. Kevin Gowdy has been really impressive. Somebody who I got to see a couple of times, but because he went straight to Tulsa, I didn't get a chance to see a whole lot of him. Still fun and dynamic, impressive player. A lot of good prospect stories to be told through the course of the spring training, which is my favorite part of spring training, is being able to watch that aspect of the game. Continuing on with the questions, Gregory says, Austin, who do you think is the best player coming out of the minor leagues as far as the whole league, not just the Dodgers? Best player coming out of minor league baseball. It's tough because I don't get a chance to watch every single player in the organization. Obviously, Baltimore has an incredible farm system, and they're going to be a force in the American League for some time. And a lot of other prospect leagues and a prospect list have ranked them incredibly highly. I'll talk a little bit about somebody that I saw in the Midwest League last year, which is the high A league around me. I don't think he's the best player in the world, but I think a lot of Emmanuel Rodriguez out of the Minnesota Twins organization. I don't believe a top 10 prospect in the game of baseball, but he has a ton of tools, and he was one of the best players in the Midwest League last year. Somebody to keep an eye out for. Was an absolute menace during the Midwest League Championship Series against the Great Lakes Loons. Somebody that I did not have a ton of fun watching. Also, another guy who, right now, if you look at Fangraphs, is projected to make the opening day roster for the San Diego Padres. No, I'm not talking about Jackson Ferris, or not Jackson Ferris, the shortstop out of there. I'm talking about Graham Pauley. Graham Pauley was amazing when I got to see him in the Midwest League for the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. His power that he had when it didn't look like there was a ton of power in there, and just his ability to destroy pitches were incredible. He is somebody that could make a real impact for the Padres this upcoming season. So best in minor league baseball, you'd have to lean towards maybe some of the Jackson Holiday, the Churios out of Milwaukee, some of those guys. But some of the guys that I got a chance to see last year are Graham Pauley and Manuel Rodriguez. Those are two really good players, position player-wise, Minnesota and San Diego. So really good question about that. Kind of wanted to lean a little bit more to guys that I've seen in the past. And then, let's see, Justin Lama says, Kirk Cousins got paid before Blake Snell. Yes, he did. Kirk Cousins got a big contract today. Congratulations to him. Denard says, what's the update on the ugly new jerseys and see-through pants? I have not heard anything from Fanatics and Nike as far as the jerseys. There were a lot of rumblings about that, and I'm sure that they have seen all of the complaints. I don't know if they're trying to wait it out and hope people stop caring about it. I don't know. I don't have any sort of insight as far as what's going on. I don't think there has been any sort of announcements of them making or anticipating to make any sort of trades or making any sort of changes to that. So going forward right now, Deuce says pitcher's health will improve when command is prioritized over velo and spin. I think that probably is correct, and that's going a little bit more towards the old school ways of approaching it. For that command, you're looking for putting a little bit more balls in play, where the game of baseball has drastically changed over the course of the last 20 years, from strikeout percentages to walk percentages to the guys just throwing heat consistently and constantly. This is the new way the game is played because pitchers are trying to maximize their potential. They're trying to maximize their ability, and with that can create a little bit more volatility in the arm that can lead to a lot of different aspects. So I think that is something that we are seeing. I do not anticipate that changes because there's a lot of unique characteristics that we're seeing with some of the velo, with the spin rate, with the induced vertical break. All of the aspects of pitching that are on the revolutionary side that have become so ingrained with the pitching aspect in the game of baseball. I don't anticipate that changing unless it becomes so desperate with pitching injuries that they have to make a change. And right now, they don't have to make a change immediately. Yes, pitchers are getting injured, and yes, it is frustrating. However, I think they are willing to take that into account with some of the dynamic play and with the just increased effectiveness that a lot of these pitchers have with strikeouts and walks. This game is moving heavily towards a three true outcome type of game. I don't anticipate that changing right now. And yes, Justin Lamas, Jackson Merrill is the guy that I was referring to earlier, the shortstop for San Diego. I got a chance to see him in Fort Wayne last year, and he is really good. And I'm grateful that the Padres decided to call up Graham Pauley, Jackson Merrill, a lot of different guys from the Fort Wayne Tin Caps with about a couple of weeks to go. Really helped the Great Lakes Loons towards the end of last season, although I think Great Lakes was a better, really good team. Those guys deserve to be called up to Double-A, and they're going to play a big impact for the Padres coming up during the course of this season. Denard, with the Dodgers shortstop issues the last 2 seasons, do you think the Dodgers regret not re-signing Corey Seager and or Trey Turner? I think there might be a little bit of regret with not re-signing Trey Turner or Corey Seager. I don't think the Dodgers anticipated the struggles at shortstop right now to the degree of which they had. Plus, I also think the Dodgers are happy with the offseason that they've had so far. I think it came to exactly what the Dodgers had planned. They had been fighting to get a Shohei Ohtani. They had been looking for some type of ace-level starting pitcher, and they got 2 of those in Tyler Glasnow and a Yoshinobu Yamamoto. These are the guys that the Dodgers had wanted, and they had been targeting for years, and they could have been complicated, especially because you didn't know before this offseason that Shohei Ohtani was going to give the Dodgers such a favorable deal, with him having just a $2 million contract through the course of the 10 years and then having all the other money be deferred. The Dodgers were not anticipating that. They were anticipating a much higher salary count for him. And with that, I think the Dodgers preferred to get a Shohei Ohtani and still expected Gavin Lux to be able to fill in the shortstop position in the time frame that he had, and I think they were going to give him 2023 to be able to adapt to that shortstop position as needed. It just didn't happen to work out, so there might be a little bit of regret in that. Carlos Garcia, just referring to Noah Miller as well. He is part of this Dodgers organization. It was a little bit disappointing we didn't get a chance to see him get an at-bat during today's game. I'm excited to see what he's able to do going forward. What's been all of last season for the Cedar Rapids Colonels, the high A affiliate of the Minnesota Twins, played with Emmanuel Rodriguez and Kalai Rosario and all the dynamic, fun players that the Colonels had last season. Another added depth to shortstop to the middle infield for this Dodgers club, which has really revamped it at the minor league level with the additions of Trey Sweeney and Noah Miller. Denard states today's pitchers focused on velocity and sprint rate. Greg Maddux was the opposite for pristine command. How would Maddux do in today's game? I still expect, because Greg Maddux is a Hall of Fame level pitcher, I still think he very well would have been a great dynamic pitcher in today's game because of the talent that he has. I have no doubt that he would have been a great pitcher in today's game. Even if there's a little bit of different approach, I think he would have taken advantage of all of the analytics that are a part of this game and maybe could have made himself even better, if that is even possible for Greg Maddux. So still really good and would have been great in today's game. Gregory, I don't think the Dodgers would have let Corey Seager walk if they thought Trey Turner wasn't going to stay a Dodger. I think that's very likely could have been, and I think they could have been anticipating Trey Turner being a Dodger as well. Hindsight's 2020 though, and Dodgers don't have the ability to go back and change what has happened. They're going to have to move forward. Corey Seager is a part of the Texas Rangers. Trey Turner is part of the Philadelphia Phillies. They're going to have to find what is best for the Dodgers now. Can't go back and change what happened in the past. But to close today's show, I actually want to give a little bit of a shout out and feature to the Dodgers that will be participating on March 16th during the spring breakout that will be have. So I'm going to go through the roster that's going to be part of spring breakout for the Dodgers. We're going to be going through the pitchers, the catchers, the infielders, and the outfielders that are part of this club, and the guys that you're going to have a chance to see be highlighted as far as Major League Baseball's desire to highlight some of the guys in the farm system. The Dodgers are going to farm system team is going to be going up against the Angels farm system team, I believe at 4 o'clock Pacific time on Saturday, March 16th. And these are the guys that you could see be part of those teams, be on the field. These are the guys that are part of the roster, some really good, talented players. You have Jackson Ferris, left-handed pitcher, acquired from the Chicago Cubs organization in the Michael Busch trade. Really good, talented pitcher. Somebody who we really haven't had a chance to see during spring training yet. You might have a chance to see him Saturday, March 16th. The guy that I had mentioned earlier as a potential guy to break out even more for this team as far as cracking on the door for the big league roster, or at least cracking on the door in AAA Oklahoma City. Justin Robleski, dominant pitcher for the Great Lakes Loons last season. Speaking of dominant, Ronan Kopp, a guy who had moved to the bullpen. He is so good. He has that electric, dominant fastball, that velocity that you have on the left side of the mound. Big, tall left-hander who can be a force for the Dodgers out of the pen. Watch out for Ronan Kopp. He's another guy that can make an impact. Patrick Copen, somebody who Casey actually had a feature on, was drafted last season. You're going to have a chance to see a little bit more of him as he continues to progress a little bit more through this farm system. Alec Gamboa, one of Casey's favorites, somebody who is right on deck for the Major League roster. He's going to be on the club. Edgardo Henriquez is going to be a part of there. Spent a lot of time, flamethrower, as on Rancho's team. I might have a chance to see him as well as Joel Ibarra on the club as well. Jared Karros, who him and Peter Hubeck outdueled Jackson Jobe, one of the top pitching prospects in the game of baseball, not once, but twice in the course of a week with the Whitecaps season on the line. Jared Karros and Peter Hubeck are the reason why the West Michigan Whitecaps did not make the playoffs last season. He is going to be a part of the roster, as well as somebody you've had a chance to see in spring training in Juan Murillo, a dynamic, fast-throwing flamethrower, and John Rooney as well, one of the other left-handed relievers in Oklahoma City. On the catching side, you have Dalton Rushing. You have a chance to see him in spring training. He is elite. I know he didn't really have any hits during the course of spring training, but what he's shown in the past with his power ability, with his 18% walk percentage, he is going to be dominant, elite. He can play catcher or he can play first base, similar to how this next guy, Tyrone Lorenzo, who was the guy who broke out probably the most for the Dodgers last season at this single A level with Rancho, posting the best WRC plus in the Dodgers system with a 155 last year. He is really good. Had a chance to see him taking at bat today, as well as this guy, Yainer Fernandez, one of the best and most fun guys in the system. He can play catcher and he can play second base as well. A little bit more of the bat to ball, a good plate discipline, doesn't strike out a whole lot type of guys. Jesus Galiz is also another fun catcher. Don't forget about Jesus Galiz. Often overlooked in the system, yet has great talent, great defensive ability, and good, solid offensive ability for the catching position. As far as the infielders, you've seen him a lot. Trey Sweeney is going to be part of it. Came over in the deal, the Yarbet Vivas, Victor Gonzalez trade. Jake Geloff, part of the 2023 draft class for the Dodgers, is a part of it as well. Alexander Albertus, somebody who I have not had a chance to see a whole lot play. He's going to be part of the club as well as somebody that I've talked probably your ear off a lot about, and somebody that we did a prospect feature yesterday. Go ahead and check out the video of Austin Gauthier. incredible player, somebody I fully anticipate to make an impact for this Dodgers club because of his production and because of his dynamic and versatility that he has. Noah Miller is going to be a part of it. Came over in the deal with Minnesota. He's going to be a part of this club as well. Alex Freeland is going to be on the club as well. And I fully expect Alex Freeland, and perhaps this is somebody that I should have stated as my breakout player on the minor league level. I love the swing that Alex Freeland has. I think there is a lot of potential to have a lot of power in that swing, because when he unloads on the baseball and he hits a home run, you see something in that swing. It is really impressive. Switch hitter, really good, solid at shortstop, can also play third base and might profile a little bit better at third base. He's going to have a lot of playing time this season. He's going to be a part of the Dodgers spring breakout roster, as well as the outfielders. Josue De Paula, one of the Dodgers prospects in the system, can have a huge impact for this Dodgers club and has the potential, has the plate discipline, and potentially a little bit more in that power. Casey compares him a lot to Bernie Williams. There have been a lot of other comparisons as well. Perhaps nobody has as much hype this young in his career as Josue De Paula. Doesn't mean that he will become that player, but he has a lot of potential to be that type of player. First round draft pick for the Dodgers last year, Kendall George is going to be a part of it. Dynamic type of speed. Zaire Hope, who was also part of the Michael Busch trade with Chicago, is going to be on the club, as well as a couple of other names. International prospect who hasn't been a ton of time in the Dodgers affiliates yet, Samuel Munoz. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it just because I haven't had the privilege to be able to see him on a baseball field quite yet. He's going to be a part of the club, as well as Jose Ramos. We've seen him a lot during the course of the spring training. And Damon Keith, who spent all of last season in Great Lakes. He's got a lot of speed. He's got a lot of power. He's still got a lot in there as well. All of those guys are going to be part of the Dodgers spring breakout, part of MLB's initiative to highlight these prospects, something that they very well should do more of. And those are just a small sample of guys in this system that are good, that are talented, that have a good impact on this club and create the depth that this Dodgers team needs. I know everything isn't perfect, yet we should remember just how far this team has come in the roster construction since the course of last season. At the end of last season, when the Dodgers lost in that series in Arizona and we were looking around, how would this Dodgers club be able to address the starting pitching? How would they be able to address this lineup? The Dodgers have responded and answered, and they have answered, and their two opening day starters, the opening day game 1 starter, Tyler Glasnow, and their game 2 starter, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, were very necessary answers that this Dodgers club had. On the offense, they signed the best player and perhaps the most unique player in the history of baseball in Shohei Ohtani, who we won't even get a chance to see him pitch this season. That is yet to come for the Dodgers, but even his offensive ability is one of the best in the game of baseball. They added him, and they added Teoscar Hernandez. I know the Dodgers don't have all the answers. No club has all the answers right now. The Dodgers have a great club, and we are just 9 days away from watching this team go out there and compete for the World Series this upcoming season. It all starts March 20th in Korea. Dodgers versus Padres. Tyler Glasnow, Yu Darvish. The start of the Shohei Ohtani era of Dodgers baseball is right around the corner. Thank you very much for joining us here, Dodgers Daily, part of the Dodgers Daily Network. I believe tomorrow there's going to be a brand new hot take that is going to be released here on Dodgers Daily. Wednesday night, Casey and I will be live going through, talking a lot about these topics, talking a lot about the recap of what we've seen so far in spring training. There is so much to be excited about if you're a Dodgers fan. Lean into that as we are just 9 days away. Dodgers versus Padres. Shohei Ohtani era of Dodgers baseball is about to begin.